Hey folks, last night's Nitex Part the 2, Frightfield 4, The Redarkening and so on. Well, it was busy. I basically want to summarise in this video what we went through last night, both good and bad, because we certainly had both. Wait, did you hear that? It sounded like a Windows error. No mind. If you didn't manage to catch it last night and you'd like to watch the full stream, you can check out either Finn, aka Mashed8, or the two Angry Gamers Twitch stream from last night. Both links will be in the description below. Finn in particular deserves an especially large slice of cake for freeing up his game and TeamSpeak servers for us to use, configuring each especially for this event. For me personally, as an event itself, it was kind of stressful and hectic, to be honest. As we got closer and closer to the night in question, we were getting more and more requests by players that wanted to take part. It came to a point where we just couldn't accept any more people. It just wasn't feasible, for a number of reasons. It was always going to be a closed event right from the start, and Adam actually did a very good job of explaining this at the end of his breakfast bonanza on Monday. Essentially, there has to be an element of trust between all those taking part. Firstly, because the cinematic tools require a Punkbuster and Fairfight disabled server, we kind of open ourselves up to grief and trolling from people running wall hacks and aimbots and whatnot. The second cinematic tools related issue is that there is no way to ensure that everyone on the server is running the same environment setup that we as a group have agreed between us. So, with the possibility of people running around on broad daylight settings, it doesn't really allow us to properly evaluate gameplay, not to mention the frustration of knowing that someone is playing with an unfair advantage. The most difficult thing for me on the night was ensuring that the presets and lights were being applied correctly by all players, some of whom were using the tools for the first time. The added complication being that the tools themselves can be a little quirky in the way that they apply the changes to the environment, and this can vary from PC to PC, so some people were having trouble with outdoor lighting or sky application, and some games were crashing completely at various points. In the end, despite best efforts, ultimately we ended up with just too many players. I'm not blaming anyone but myself for that. I think I probably should have just picked a sensible maximum player number and stuck rigidly to it. But we learn from these things, don't we? In a way, I suppose it was quite nice to have such a high level of enthusiasm for the event as a whole. So enough of the negatives, let's look at some of the good stuff that came out of last night. Firstly, having looked back at the streams, it actually looked pretty good, and generally speaking, people seemed to have fun once everything was set up and they actually got a chance to play. Personally, I really enjoy the challenge of a dark map. The general consensus last night seemed to be that each map was rendered with an appropriate level of lighting for the environment it was supposed to represent. Jack pointed out similarities between the Shanghai map we played and the Shanghai level from early on in the single player campaign, minus the rain of course. So from that point of view, I achieved what I wanted to achieve, I think. As I've said before, in my mind, a night map should be a different proposition to its daytime counterpart. If it's going to be worth converting in the first place, it should be converted into something that has a very different feel, otherwise what's the point? Not to pick out Level Cap for any particular reason, but he recently put his thoughts on night maps in a video amongst other things, and mentioned he was certain official night maps would turn out to be styled similarly to BF3's Death Valley from the Armoured Kill DLC. Like Turan Highway, it wasn't a dark map so much as a blue tinted map. In contrast to that, I'm pretty sure that BF4 night maps, if we get them at all, will be much darker. Evidence of this was seen in the CTE version of Pearl Market, which was almost pitch black in certain unlit areas. And don't forget, these are not new maps they're designing from scratch. They're potentially taking existing daytime maps and relighting them to run as alternatives alongside the day variant. In case you missed it, in all the confusion, we had a bit of a special guest playing and chatting with us last night. Thomas Wright is the DICE senior lighting artist and was responsible for redoing Pearl Market for Halloween. He's also pretty much single-handedly taking on the task of presenting these new night alternatives to the development team. Maps he's currently got on the table include Pearl Market, Golmod Railway, which I gather is near completion, Zavod 311 and Siege of Shanghai. Some of these maps represent quite different challenges from what I've gathered, with Shanghai being the most technically difficult to convert, but given its potential, I think it's considered to be worth a shot. If considered good enough, the maps will definitely arrive in CTE for testing first, which probably isn't too much of a surprise, and of course there's always the possibility that no night maps at all will make it to a retail patch. I'm fairly confident we'll get one or two though at least. Time will tell. One other significant hurdle as I see it is the issue of 3D spotting. I've said it before and I'll say it again, 3D spotting is the spawn of Satan and it should be removed completely. That's not going to happen, I know that, but I do believe it will have to change somewhat for night maps. In environments with the level of light that we played last night, orange Doritos as they currently exist in normal mode will ruin any potential challenge presented by the cover of darkness. Even friendly and objective-based HUD icons are way too bright and obstructive on standard settings, and so it remains a question of whether or not they will feel the need to make changes to the system as a whole for nighttime maps, or expect people to alter settings when switching between day and night environments. This of course is additional work for the devs, and I just don't know whether they've ultimately got the time or the inclination to go to those lengths to give us this alternative. Having said that, changes to 3D spotting across the board have already been discussed in CTE to some extent. If we do get the chance to see anything official on the night map front, it probably won't be until sometime in February. That's all for now. I think I was going to run through the basic setup we use for these events with the tools, but I'll take that over into its own video, I think. As far as further Fright Field 4 events go, that'll probably be the last big play session I put together, unless Hattie manages to make some miracle patches to the tools to include lights in presets, but I think he's got a lot of other things on his plate at the moment. I hope you enjoyed this little adventure. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!